I was born in New Jersey, went to Tulane University to study medicine, believe it or not. And I didn't know anything about architecture. I don't have any architects in my family. And I sort of discovered architecture. So I had no interest of going to ASU at the time. It was actually quite good. And I got a pretty good education there. I did my undergraduate at ASU. And I sort of suicided Harvard and said, if I don't get in, I won't go to graduate school. I did my master's in architecture. I was just about finished with it, and I got a project, an opportunity to go to China. I deferred my graduation. I got back to Harvard, and I finished my MArch, and then I did a master's in urban design. So, you know, I think I really like problem solving, but I'm also a very aesthetic person. And so design was kind of a natural fit for me. So kind of marrying the qualitative with the quantitative, thinking about how do we make the world a better place, and try to do it in a way that's both beautiful, economic, you know, long-lasting, timeless. That's the goal, at least. Good design should do a number of things. A really good design should have impact beyond just the individuals that, let's say, have the privilege of occupying the space. For me, a core value is that when we create something in the world, it should make a contribution to the larger project of architecture. Just fundamentally, as a designer, the one thing, if I were to pick one word that I think best describes the work we do, is this idea of integration. It's very important to me that the context, the climate, the environment, the program, you know, the materiality, all these things have an integrated relationship with each other. It's basically a four-pronged process that I incorporate. I begin every project by looking at the program in an isolated way, just evaluating the program. So while we're looking at the program, we'll be looking at the site constraints, the opportunities, the value systems of the site. And then the third piece is materiality. So we'll think about modes of production. How do people build in that area? The fourth piece in the work that I do is nature. Very interested in how nature integrates those things. The nature piece, you've got program, site, material, and mode of production. And then nature is the piece that then brings all that stuff together. I think one of the things about collaborating in architecture, and as an architect that's so important, is that, you know, we are masters. We're really masters of one thing, in my opinion. We're masters of synthesizing things into something where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. We synthesize things, so that requires us to have a tangential understanding of the world. Like, we need to know a lot about everything, or I'm sorry, a little bit about everything, so that we can ask the right questions. And so, but if we didn't know enough to, let's say, challenge the engineer, which is what we're doing, challenging the fabricator, we would never get to where we are. So I think where we're headed now is, given the inevitability of sustainable systems, what's the aesthetic of that? How do we start to develop aesthetic versions of that? And I also think, if you notice too, serving underserved areas, like, that's where I think we're headed. I think it's about finding, being more human amid all the new technologies that are coming out. How can we be more human? And I think in some ways we live in such a pluralistic society now because of Zoom, or, you know, Pinterest, or that you kind of see everything going on in the world simultaneously. And so architecture, it's really hard to kind of look at it now and say, oh, there's a movement, you know. Or what I think is lacking right now are people out there in the world having any kind of critical look at what's being built. So right now, almost anything goes, but there's not a lot of critique of it. You are an undergrad, I think you should plant a lot of seeds. You know, it's more like growing grass a little bit, because you really need to expose yourself to as much as possible. Because, as I said before, it's a profession of experience. So the more experiences you have, travel the world, do as much as you can. The more experiences you have, the better a designer you'll be.